generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we got another movie discussion for you. We've had a lot of them lately just because tons of movies are coming out. It's a very popular month here in November. This time we have Thanksgiving, which is a horror slasher film. If you didn't know, it was actually based on a short, kind of like I guess Eli Roth, the director and writer, made a fake trailer for like a movie that could happen someday. I believe that was like about 15, 16 years ago. And now they've actually made the film. And so we have Thanksgiving, the full-length film from the original writer. So that's pretty cool. We'll go ahead and give you our non-spoiler thoughts here in the beginning, give the movie a rating, and then we'll talk a little bit about the movie. I mean, we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll change it up how we talk about the movie. I would say this movie was absolutely entertaining. I loved it. It was gory. It was creative with this gore. It wasn't just, someone got slashed and then you move on to the next person. Everything seemed to be unique and genuine to the different characters. Our killer, which we don't really find out who it is till we're like at the end of the movie. The presence on screen was amazing. I was always waiting to see what the dude was going to do next. Well, person was going to do next. And I would say that the movie had you guessing the whole time. I did not see it coming who the person was. I feel like the movie very much tries to make you believe that you know who it is all the way up until the end. And then the last thing I want to talk about before Sarah can give some of her thoughts is I thought the movie had such a strong opening. It was so good that I just kind of wondered, like, it's so good here in the first 10, 15 minutes. Is it going to be able to live up to that hype the rest of the way? And I would say there's definitely a handful of parts throughout the rest of the film that are, engaging and very attention grabbing, to say the least. So I loved it. I thought it was creative. It was great. The villain was cool. I actually hated all of the protagonists. There really wasn't anybody that I thought was super likable or that I wanted to survive the film. Whereas like another series that is very similar to this film is like Scream. And yeah, I actually care about a handful of those characters along the way. This one, not so much. I was just like, I hope this person gets killed. I hope this person gets killed. So it had interesting dynamics the whole way through. And I would say from the reactions of the people in the theater that everybody else enjoyed the film too. So two big turkey legs up for me. Sarah, what did you think of the film?
Well, I want to comment on you not liking the protagonist for a sec before I dive into my own thoughts. I feel like one thing that this movie didn't do is really invest in any kind of character development for the protagonist. With Scream, you've got like love interests, and so there's family bonding and stuff, so there's things that make you care about those characters. Whereas with these ones in this movie, we don't really spend a whole lot of time on them doing their own thing. I mean, there's a couple things here or there, but
we do spend a little bit of time with stuff like that. Like there's a whole love triangle that is making us guess who the person is the whole time too, let alone the family issues. But we'll get to that later.
I guess more or less what I was getting at is that there wasn't enough drama with that to make you care about the characters, which.
Plus, I already hated the characters at that point when the stuff was starting to happen. So,
yeah, I going to say some people might say that that's like a bad thing because like, oh, character development, you need that. But for a movie like this, I think it was fine to not really care about the protagonist because they made the villain so strong. Um and the guessing game of who it is. I really enjoyed the movie. It didn't really bother me to not care about the main characters, so to speak, because I was trying to figure out who was the slasher, the hash slinging slasher. uh, there was a handful of jump scares that got me really, really good. Um, so that's always fun. And it wasn't.
I don't really jump in movies, so I can honestly say I didn't jump at all. But there were like I can identify what a jump scare is, and so there were good jump scares. They just don't make me jump.
I about jumped out of my seat. But there was a lot of creativity with this film that I think is what made it so strong, not just from who's the killer, but also from the creativity in the deaths and the like kind of I don't want to call it torture necessarily, but the anticipation of what's going to happen and how he's doing or the person is doing these killings and uh just the um the cringiness of some of it it really adds to that horror element, so I appreciate that. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good movie and I really liked all of the anticipation.
One thing I will say about the killer, and this isn't giving it away, is that I felt like the killer was phenomenal when the mask was on, but then once it's actually revealed who it is, I was just kind of like, put the mask back on. You're not as cool without the mask. Like it almost kind of seemed like a personality switch. Like they weren't as um grotesque or um clever as when they are in the original, like the
A
when he
little
had,
more boring.
yeah, the person's definitely more boring once the mask comes off. um
Yeah. One thing that detracted from this movie for me, which brought it down, so it's not a 10 for me. Um, but one thing that I kind of wish there was more of is that there's a couple characters that could have been the killer, and although we know it's not them at the end of the film, I wish we could have like gone back and shown what they were doing or something to kind of make it a little more like
Give him an
we know
alibi.
it might be them because we don't know what's happening with them, but like maybe another little carrot to show that it might be them or something, just to kind of throw a couple more red herrings in there.
Yeah, that would have been kind of interesting because yeah, once we're kind of trying to figure out who the killer is, they kind of just go on like a linear path of, you know, we're figuring out who it is now, kind of a thing. um yeah, I would agree, that'd be kind of interesting. um let's see, let's go ahead and give it some ratings, and then we will jump into talking about some spoilers. I'll go ahead and kick it off. I was on a high basically when I came out of the film, not literally, but figuratively, because the movie was really good. Um, Walking out of the theater, I wanted to give it like a 10 out of 10 just because I had so much fun. But I would probably say it's a high 9 for me. Just because there's a couple of things that could have been cleaned up here or there. Like I said, I wish the villain was strong the whole way through and not just when the mask was on, kind of a thing. I think that would have helped it a little bit more and maybe make some of the characters more likable. Like I said, I really did not care about any of the protagonists. Um, the person that's supposed to be the jock was an absolute jerk, and he really had no redeeming qualities about himself. Um,
The
Otherwise,
weird,
just
the weirdo adult that they kept joking about how he was like coming back to finish high school or something, even though he was kind of like a dropout loser type of dude, is how they were portraying him. He was probably one of my favorite people.
yeah, I would agree. And he's not even, you know, part of the main group. Yeah, he was great.
He had that charisma.
He did. Charisma. Okay, what was your rating?
I'm at an 8. Aside from what I said already, one of the other things that I thought could have been done a little bit better is that at the very beginning, the our initial friend group that we're following, I feel like their acting was a little subpar or maybe like a little too staged. It didn't feel as natural as I feel like it should have been.
It felt a little too over the top high school bro situation.
Yeah,
If
maybe a
you're
little
talking about like
forced.
the very, very beginning,
Yes, yep.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Because
And
I was like, I had
that could
thought to
be part of
myself,
why we don't like them too, is because of that, you know?
yeah, I had thought to myself, like, if it's gonna be this way the whole movie, they're gonna be incredibly annoying. And I'm glad they toned it down a little bit. And it's honestly one of the other things that kind of bothered me was I would not believe for a second that in the beginning of the film they were like at most juniors in high school, and then the rest of the film at most seniors in high school. Because they're in high school, so they have to be at least a senior level or lower. Um, but they definitely look like adults. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right, so I gave it a high 9. Sarah gave it an 8, right?
Yes.
So we're gonna go ahead and talk about some spoilers. Um, Honestly, I feel like there's not a whole lot to cover just because it's a slasher film. But we'll talk a little bit about it. Okay, so here we go. The opening of the film, it is Thanksgiving night, and as of lately in the world, Black Friday type deals are starting to trickle more and more into Thanksgiving. And so it's the night of Thanksgiving. Everybody's ready to go and stampede the stores, which it's not like that anymore, people, but it used to be. And the big thing for people to get at the Black Friday sale was the first 100 people got a free waffle maker. Like, get over yourselves, people, on that one. Um, but they want to make this Black Friday look like the absolute worst. Like, people fear Black Friday. And so hundreds of people there. The guy behind me is the owner of the store, and he's looked at to be like the jerk to have shopping available on Thanksgiving. And what ends up happening is that the crowd overpowers the security. They bust into the store, and then just everything just goes crazy. Like, it is so bad that people are dying, people are getting stabbed, like not like stab like a slasher person, but because some people are on the ground because they fell over, so then they get trampled and stabbed by stuff. One person falls to the ground and gets her hair tangled up in someone's cartwheel and it rips her scalp. And so like, they went super over the top on this beginning section. Like I said, in the non-spoiler section, really set the bar, in my opinion, for what was yet to come.
What incited that riot?
The high schoolers got to go in early because they went in through the employee entrance. And so they were kind of taunting everybody outside to, oh, we got the cool stuff before you, kind of a thing, when they weren't supposed to. And then that caused, all this mayhem to begin. Basically, we fast forward a year after this event, and people are still upset that now it's going to be Thanksgiving again, and the owner wants to open up the store, and
We'll just have more security. It'll be fine.
right. And I thought it was kind of interesting because later on in the film, when I think it's his daughter that is talking to him, and she's like, why are you opening the store? We did it last year, this bad stuff happened, and you're gonna just do it again. She was like, why can't we just have things go back to normal? And I thought it was pretty clever what he had said next. And he was like, well, to go back to normal, we have to be normal. So why would we do things as a reaction to what happened before and not make things normal ever again? And so I thought that was kind of interesting because, like, although he's kind of viewed as this jerk of a businessman because he's open on Thanksgiving, making people work on Thanksgiving, he, especially with the actor that's playing him, because all the other things I've seen him play, he is just an absolute jerk. I didn't really think he was a super jerk in this movie. I felt like he was stupid. Like he shouldn't, in my opinion, he shouldn't have, you know, opened the store again, especially since it's only been like a year or whatever on Thanksgiving, which later on in the film, he does come around and decides not to open. But he he's just dumb. He's not a jerk, but he's just dumb. He doesn't he's not super aware of what his actions are, you know, portraying to the public. So like I said, it's been a year. People are upset about the store being open again. And basically, something starts happening, you know, where they're supposed to like shoot a commercial for the store, and someone vandalizes the set where they're supposed to be, and they steal the axe from the wall. And so this kind of starts to, you know, get the wheels turning a little bit as far as, you know, the plan in motion of the killer. You know, they have they took the axe. And basically what's happening is that this person, who we don't know who they are, has kind of like a hit list of all these people that were there on Thanksgiving night. So one by one, they are being killed off. And the first couple are just some like random type people. One of them was a shopper that was obnoxious. Another one was one of the security guards. But eventually it starts to trickle into targeting the high schoolers that were, you know, taunting everybody because they're the ones that started it all. And so there's like a picture on Twitter, or at least what looked like Twitter, or X, if you want to call it that. And they're all tagged in it, and it looks like a Thanksgiving table with all their names. And basically, as people are being killed, their like head or body part is being added to the table. And so they know that this picture is becoming more and more threatening. Like, it's not just, oh, you're going to join us at the dinner table. It's like, oh, you're going to die and we're going to put your body at the dinner table. So it's kind of like a trophy case almost of a Thanksgiving dinner table. And so a couple of our high schooler people get mixed up in it. The gymnastics girl, she gets killed. Some of them are just knocked out so that they can be awake at the dinner table when we get everybody together. Is there anything in the movie that you feel is super important to talk about before we just basically kind of go to the Thanksgiving dinner? Like, all of it is just a who did it.
We'll just take a look at who our possible suspects are and then skip right to the actual like dinner, right? And don't forget about the turkey.
Yeah.
So possible suspects, right? There's a couple people that die. There's a security guard, like thinking about the initial Thanksgiving Black Friday night, right? There's a couple people that die. There's a security of the two security guards that were there that night. One of them ran away like before anything even happened because he got scared. So that can be seen as kind of cowardly. And actually, I think he was the security guard that actually got killed later. So I guess that's not really a suspect, just more something to note. And the main protagonist girl, she had a boyfriend that initial Thanksgiving night, but he like ghosted everybody and vanished for a year and is suddenly back into town. So there's kind of the where have you been for the past year? It's pretty suspicious for all these bad things to be happening when you show up versus her new boyfriend, who was kind of like a loner and wanted to get the girl that first night. But to get the girl, he had to make sure that the other guy was ditched, right? So even though he's with the girl now, he's got some bad juju with the rest of the group. They don't really get along.
Which I
so
think
new boyfriend.
I think it's kind of interesting because like when we first see him, like in the beginning, he just seems like a nerd that doesn't talk very much. But then the year later, when he actually has the girl as his girlfriend, he's like just a total jerk. Like, I'm smart, I'm gonna be going to Harvard, blah, 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 and then just like trying to, you know, be mean to everybody. I'm just like, sit down, good sir, sit down.
Yeah. He must be really rich too, because he was trying to win over her friends with 50-yard line tickets to the big football game for the whole group. Like, that must have been a lot of money. Like, I don't know. It's just a really weird random detail that was almost unnecessary. But so you've got new boyfriend, old boyfriend. They both are kind of suspicious. The people that died, their loved ones are obviously suspicious because they're upset that the store is being open again. The store's called Right Mart. And what do they call it?
Oh, what?
Well, instead of Right Mart, they called it like Kill Mart or something.
I remember it being like Thanksgiving, not thanks buying or something like that.
That was another play on the words too, yeah. Um, but yeah, those are kind of our handful of suspects that are all pretty suspicious at this point. We don't really know what's going on. If you want to jump to our Thanksgiving turkey dinner,
Yeah, so basically all the people that are that are alive, um being, I'll just try to name them here off the sea. So uh we had Kathleen, which is Thomas. So Thomas is the guy behind me. His wife is Kathleen. They were captured. Jessica was captured.
which is his daughter,
Yes. Let's see.
her friend Scuba,
Yep, Scuba was captured. I'm trying to think what was the oh, Evan, he's the jock that's a real jerk. I thought there was one more, but maybe not.
I
Um
think those are the only ones that are alive.
yeah, so uh when we actually get to like the house that our killer is, staying in, Kathleen, we see Kathleen on a table, and basically it looks like she is being seasoned so that she can be cooked, which I thought was kind of interesting because like the the reaction to from the audience and was very comical. It's kind of funny to see stuff that way, which I thought was kind of weird. Well, not weird the reaction, but like it makes me wonder if people actually understand that sometimes people actually do that, like for parties where they actually use a person as the centerpiece and like put food on them for people to like grab and take. I don't know if you know about that, but it's a really weird thing that people do. Um,
Never heard of this before. It's a very odd thing.
so when I saw what was happening, I had thought that's what was going to happen. Like that's what was supposed to be
You're
the
talking about
thing happen.
you're talking about like murder parties
No, just like
or like hiring a model to be with the food for whatever reason.
hiring a person to lay on the table with the food.
Oh, that's really strange.
It is very strange, but that's where I thought they were
But
going with it.
yeah,
But
no,
it's
this
not.
lady, she was tied up. She was kidnapped. She didn't want to be there.
Well, yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I thought she was supposed to be a centerpiece and, food was going to be on her kind of a thing. I didn't understand that she was being seasoned so that she could basically be the turkey because he
Mm.
puts her in the oven and cooks her. So then we get to the dinner table,
Yeah, well,
which,
he was buttering up her skin and stuff, so I get and then salting it and putting like parsley on her and like between her toes and stuff, which was super cringy and
yeah,
kind of funny.
which was probably the most comical part of it. Like people were giggling a little bit, and then when they saw the parsley, they just lost it. um, so yeah, he cooks her, chops her head off at some point because when he puts her body on the dinner table, the head is missing. But at the dinner table are all the people that we listed a second ago, being the dad, the daughter, and three, the two friends of the daughter that were there. Uh, and so at one point in the movie, the daughter gets like this little sharp thing from the dude
The
we were
cool
talking about
the
in the
cool high
beginning.
school dropout
Yeah,
gave her a ring saying that her his mom or dad or whoever used it and like help got them through a war. And so that's how she was able to figure out there was something special about it.
yeah. And what was special about it is that there was a blade inside. So she was able to cut the ropes off of her, and then she like, very secretly handed it to her friend, Scuba, and then he cut himself from it. And then this is where people start to, separate from the group. Um, Scuba goes after the killer, And the killer does, get him on the arm, cuts him a little bit, but crap, what's her name? Jessica, she runs out. She takes off into like the woods and finds out that there's a fence. She hops the fence and she's able to get away. And eventually, she gets to. So they had a big Thanksgiving parade, which you can see in the trailer and behind Sarah. And she goes to the area where all the parade floats are supposed to be. And so she goes there. She sees that the cop that has been helping them this whole time is on the ground and he kind of appears dead. Turns out he's not, because he ends up helping her, because she goes inside the building. She sees one of her friends, the guy that had been missing for a year and came back. He takes off the
Her
mask.
old boyfriend.
Yeah, the ex-boyfriend. He takes off the mask and has her believe that, that he is the killer. He doesn't tell her. She just sees him take the mask off. And so she goes to leave so she can go tell, whoever. And she runs into the cop. The cop actually wasn't dead. And the cop says, I'll go in there. I'll take care of him. And then, we can, get out of here. And so he goes in. You hear some gunshots. He comes back out and says, I think I wounded him. Let's just go. And so they go to a police station with evidence and everything. And people are, going all through the warehouse with all the floats trying to find the ex-boyfriend. And so there's a couple of pieces of evidence on the table, one being a phone. They do take the cop's gun. They said, because you fired the gun, it is now part of evidence. And so basically the daughter, I keep forgetting her name, even though I keep saying it, Jessica, she's left in the room and everybody leaves. And so she's sitting there, and then the cop comes back and he's talking to her. And as she's sitting in the room, she is picking off like they're burrs, right? Is that what they're called? She's picking off some burrs off of her clothing, because when she ran through the forest, there was some plants there that had the burrs. And so she's looking at the cop and notices on the bottom of his pant leg that he has some burrs. And she was chased by the killer in the forest, maybe. And so this is where we get the revelation that the cop is the one that is the killer this whole time, which, like I said, I didn't see coming. However, there's different things throughout the film where he was like, he had said something along the lines of, you are the key to me figuring all this out, kind of a thing. And really what he meant was, you're the key to me finding you guys every time, so then I can kill you.
I couldn't have done this without you.
Right. The reason why, because the girl says, why did you do it? Us as the audience, we want to know too. And turns out that in the beginning of the film, the lady that got her scalp ripped off by the carts was having an affair with him. And he had said, she was going to leave her husband. We see from a picture from his kill board that had her there as his inspiration. Right below her was a picture of a baby. So she was pregnant and killed during that Black Friday rush. And so he wanted to get revenge on all these kids that incited the violence, which honestly, I think the violence would have happened without them anyways, but I digress. So when she was at the dinner table and all the friends were there, the killer had said, we're going to say into the camera what we are thankful for. And so she says to the cop in the room, I didn't get to tell you what I was thankful for. And he says, well, what were you thankful for? And she goes, the cell phone service, because one of the pieces of evidence was a cell phone, and she had been recording him the whole time, basically telling everybody that he was the one that did it. And so she's able to, the ex-boyfriend throws something through the glass, which hits the killer, which just staggers him for a little bit. So Jessica and the ex-boyfriend are able to leave. And then the cop is chasing them with an axe. But as Jessica and her ex are heading out, she turns on a valve for a tank that has flammable gas in it, and it's filling up this big blow-up turkey. And so when they're trying to get away, She jumps in one of the trucks that was in the warehouse, which happened to be the truck of the like rock star dude that had the party that we were talking about. That was the cool one of the group. Um, his float was basically having, fake gunshots and whatnot. And so she took the gun that he was using, filled it, and then fired it at the big blow up turkey, which blew up the warehouse and incinerated the cop, at least so we believe. And then the movie basically ends with, paramedics show up. They're all talking about who done did it. The firemen come out of the building and they say, that was quite the incineration. There's no way that anybody could have survived. And then
But they don't find any bodies or anything.
the camera focuses on one of the firemen walking out with an axe. And the reason why us as the audience is kind of like, maybe that's him, is because there's a couple of times throughout where the killer had taken someone's clothing. And so maybe that was another instance here where maybe he killed a fireman and then put his clothes on so that he could escape, because you couldn't see through the dude's mask. But that's the end of the movie, essentially. So yeah, some of the things I like, now that we can talk about spoilers, like I said, that opening scene from the Black Friday was amazing. There was so many just random things happening. It set the tone for the film. Like I said, if you haven't seen any of the Eli Roth films in the past, they're usually pretty edgy and graphic. And so knowing that going into this one, I was like, yeah, we're going to get some things that we are surprised to see. And they started off right here in the beginning. Some of the kills were pretty interesting. So like the security guard, he was kind of a bigger dude. And the way he was killed was what is that machine called? It was like an electronic knife.
I don't remember this guy's death.
It was in his apartment and the killer grabbed like
it was an electric carving knife.
there you go. He took that and he stuck it in his stomach, which
You would use that for carving a turkey.
yeah, well, it was also kind of like a callback to the scene in the beginning. So, when one of the workers had to go to the store, he was like, "I got to work on Thanksgiving," and he stabs a knife into a turkey right in the gut. So I kind of wonder if that was a connection to that, especially because if you watch the short that Eli Roth made way back when, they made it apparent to stab it like in the gut of the turkey back then too. There's a lot of parallels here that Eli Roth paid attention to, which was really good. So yeah, that one was clever. There was one where I think, let's see, the woman that was the shopper, she was chopped, or she was so she was trying to run away from the killer, and he used her vehicle to pin her up against a trash can, which like chopped her in half. So that was a good one. Let's see, trying to think.
Well, he first dunked her face in water and then stuck her to the freezer door, and she had to peel herself off the freezer door because her face was all wet, so it stuck to the ice like instantly.
I thought that was so genius. So genius. I liked it.
It was nasty.
I'm trying to think, who was the one that he chopped the head off with the wire? Was that the gymnast? No. Yeah, I think it was the gymnast. Wasn't it? Who was the one with the wire?
I thought it was the security guard.
Was it?
Yeah.
So he like stuck the thing in his gut and then chopped his head off with the. Oh yes, he did chop his head off because he put his head at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cheerleader, she had been jumping on a trampoline because she was trying to do some like strip tease for her boyfriend. But the guy kills the boyfriend by twisting his neck and then stabs through the trampoline that she's jumping on. So it like stabs her foot and then she falls and then she gets stabbed through like her body.
Which I thought, so that's also a callback to the original short, but I just thought it was so genius because like once you're jumping on the trampoline, you're helpless until you can stop jumping. And so like there was all the killer had to do was watch where she was going to land and through the thing. I was just like, wow, so smart. Um, let's see. Trying to think some of the other ones. Obviously, we talked about Kathleen. She was burnt to a crisp. Um, oh, the football player. He was basically bludgeoned to death. They shoved his head on the table and then smashed him with a hammer. Um,
Oh, the ex-boyfriend and kind of why he disappeared. I forgot about this part. But he, I guess, was like a baseball athlete to be. Like he was supposed to be like a really big baseball player. But he had his hand crushed in a way during the riot at the Thanksgiving Black Friday sale that it like destroyed his hand and he'd never be able to pitch again, which, would give him motive to want to get back at people.
right. But he didn't die though, right?
No.
I don't think so. And neither did the jerk boyfriend. I was kind of hoping he was gonna get it, but he didn't.
Yeah, the guy that got his hand crushed at the very beginning, he was who the police officer was trying to frame.
Right. Yes. Um,
Fright Mart.
that what they called it?
I think so.
Could have been. I don't remember personally. Um, there was also one other really good plot twist. So they went towards the end of the movie when they were like, "Okay, we know what we're gonna do. We're gonna, corner him at the parade, and we're gonna get him." The killer is known for wearing this John Carver mask and the, pilgrim hat. Well, he dresses up as like a really creepy clown when he gets to the parade, so he doesn't actually look like the other people. Basically, the bystanders that are dressing up like John Carver appear to be the killer, but really he is, in the clown outfit.
Do
Which
you remember? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder if I could be doing a stretch here, but it makes me wonder if it's a callback to the other movie that Eli Roth was a producer for, which was Clown.
So at that moment, they were trying to get in the police car, and the driver, who I thought was the sheriff, gets like shot down or gunned down or whatever by the clown, and then the clown is the one who drives the car away. Well, if the sheriff is the clown, how could he be the one who is trying to drive away in the first place? It must have been somebody else, right? Or maybe it was a different.
I thought it
Oh,
was
maybe it was his other like assistant deputy who
yeah,
was who was trying to drive them away.
I don't think it was him. Um, but also there's another good kill in that whole fiasco at the parade too, because there's the scene where there's a car that is pulling um a float, and that float has like a pirate ship on it, or the Mayflower, because it's pilgrims, and the front of the boat goes through the car and like goes through the dude's face, and it's just like the front of the boat is through the front of his face, and the blood is just squirting on to the little girls that were in the vehicle with him. They're like, "Oh God." And you can just see it's kind of like, just squirting them over and over again. I was like, just get out of the vehicle. What are you doing?
I don't think they could because they were so young. They weren't able to like open the door. Like it was too heavy, because it was a really old truck. Those doors are heavy. And those girls were only like 5.
I don't know. I just know if the blood was squirting in my face, I'd probably do what well, maybe they were kind of in shock being young. So
Yeah.
I'll give that to
But
them.
I think that was their grandpa.
Could have been. I don't know. Was there anything else you want to talk about this movie? Again, I thought it was really good. Um, I definitely recommend seeing it. If you want to see it in theaters, go for it. I think it's better to support it with your money that way than streaming. Just because I think this one deserves it. This is a horror movie that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, when she, meaning Jessica, when she gets away from and like she's at the police station at the very end, and they say that her friends and like dad and stuff are at the hospital. I thought that was kind of maybe a little weird. Like, I guess because they had framed Bobby. I don't know. It was just a little hazy on the details. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, they knew the location because of the cell phone. Like there was one cell phone that was recording a screen, but the second one, which was the actual one, that gave away their location so they can go and find them.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But that was our movie discussion on Thanksgiving. Again, 2 turkey legs up, a high 9 for me, 8 for Sarah, which is a good testament to how good this film was. If you enjoyed this movie discussion, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you are notified when more movie discussions drop. There's a lot of good movies coming out, and we look forward to talking to you about them all. Drop a like if you like this video, and drop us a comment letting us know if you saw Thanksgiving and what your thoughts were about it. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.